Lord of Mysteries is a mess. A few years ago, I watched my first Chinese anime, Link Click, and it was fire. It had a unique premise, some great characters, and tons of emotional moments that were explored in ways I wasn't really used to. And it let me know that, like, damn, other countries than Japan can make animations like these. Wow.
I have no knowledge of any of this.
A few weeks ago, I finished To Be Hero X, another great Chinese anime, and so when I saw this new one called Lord of Mysteries that had an absurdly high rating, I knew I had to check it out. But unfortunately, this one is not like the others. You see, the thing about Lord of Mysteries is that it adapts a novel that is over 1,400 chapters long.
Damn!
For context, that is quite a bit longer than One Piece, and so I guess the people adapting the story were like, damn, we're not really trying to make this anime for the next 30 years, so we're just gonna speedrun this shit. And the results are 13 completely incomprehensible episodes. This show makes absolutely zero attempts to try and explain what is happening, why it's happening, or how it's happening. The first two scenes in this show make absolutely no sense if you have no prior knowledge. I mean, there are obviously some stuff that is supposed to be confusing, but even the things you are meant to understand are confusing. I could pick almost any piece of dialogue at random and it's not going to be understandable.
The pupilless eye denoting concealment, and the contorted line symbolizing change.
What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
Then he gets transported to this like different realm where he like summons these other two people, and for some reason his first instinct is the aura farm.
What does he do? Can aura farms, man. He just goes, yes. And just as I planned, exactly according to Keikaku, he has no idea what's going on.
Now, having watched some episodes after this, I kind of know why he does it, sort of, but this show doesn't make it clear, especially not the first time he does it, which is like the most important time to make it clear. You know, it's been really funny to see people basically deny all criticism people have with this show by saying, it's called Lord of Mysteries, it's supposed to be confusing. And again, yes, some stuff I get is supposed to be a mystery, but not everything. If I think the dialogue is rushed and confusing, you can't just be like, oh, it's a mystery, like you're fucking J.J. Abrams.
Mystery box, you know?
What the main character is thinking in the first episode and the reason behind his actions shouldn't be a mystery. The only real mystery is how they managed to make an adaptation this rushed. Because this show's pacing is awful. Like, truly bad. The story almost never has a chance to just breathe for like 2 seconds because the normal structure of the show is like, boom, information dump that makes no sense. Now we're in a completely different location and this crazy dramatic music is playing, but actually now we're in another new location. Fuck that other place. Boom, this dude turns into a monster. More gibberish, information dump. Boom, now we're in a completely different dimension speaking to God. Boom, it was all a dream the whole time. You know, there's one notable part where the characters get the chance to just chill for a few seconds where nothing crazy happens, but it is also a scene that makes absolutely no sense and makes the pacing even worse. So Klein wakes up from a dream and is like, I know where the notebook is. And so he rushes to go get it. But then the next scene shows him in the new house that he just bought off screen, even though we just saw him wake up from his dream at his old house. Then the scene after that is him again running to look for the Antigonus notebook. Like, what? This scene is so out of place, it's actually hilarious. Because I'm pretty certain they just showed it at the wrong point in time in the story. This scene plays at the end of episode 2, and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was supposed to happen at the end of episode 3. Otherwise, why would he be chilling in his new house when he's supposed to be looking for the notebook and we just saw him in the old house? Also, the scene is just strange. We get to meet Benson, Klein's brother, for the first time. Gee, I'm sure glad he's in the story now. What a great way to introduce a character. And then Klein makes everyone food and his sister says,
Are you sure you've never cooked before?
What? You guys have been living together your whole life. Why are you asking that question as if you don't know? The better line would be, how did you do this when you've never cooked before? This scene is genuinely so strange and out of place. Am I supposed to feel like a deep connection between these three? I just met his brother and he has barely spoken a word, and I've only seen his sister like once up to this point. Now, I had been told that this weird pacing would be improved after episode 3, and honestly, I kinda believe them, especially so because episode 3 is actually pretty good. It's not a perfect episode by any means, it still contains some of this show's trademark issues, but let me tell you, it has a fight that I thought was genuinely amazing and had some insanely high quality writing. Before we get to that though, we gotta fight Justin Bieber.
Bieber lost control.
If I'm talking to you, then I'm standing on business, isn't it?
This fight isn't perfect as you almost never know how any of the characters' powers work, but it does do a lot for its characters. For the first time, we actually see these guys struggle. Not only that, but we see that they genuinely care for each other. This does a really nice job at humanizing them because up to this point, they had basically just been these annoying, smug assholes. But again, where this episode really shines is the clown fight. This fight is so good because it does exactly what the show hasn't done so far, which is clue the audience in on what the fuck is happening. When you're writing a fight, to me, it's important that it isn't just two action figures clashing against each other with huge explosions and energy beams. For me to enjoy fight to the fullest extent, I need to understand what exactly the characters' abilities are, how they work, and what they can and can't do. For example, in Hunter x Hunter, there's this dodgeball game, and it looks like the other team is about to get possession of the ball. But just before they do, Hisoka uses his ability to pull the ball back to their side of the court. This is a satisfying moment, one because it's cool, but most importantly because we knew Hisoka's ability was able to do this. If we didn't know how his ability worked and he did that, it wouldn't be satisfying. It would just be kinda lame. Like, let's say there's this anime where two criminals are having a fist fight in a dark alley. They fight for a while and then suddenly one of them pulls out a knife. Then the other guy pulls out a gun. But then the first guy all of a sudden transforms into a car and then runs the other guy over. That would be whack. That would be stupid. That would be dumb. It makes sense for them to have a knife and a gun because they're criminals, but we had no way of predicting that one of them could transform into a car. Therefore, it isn't a rewarding experience for the audience. But this fight in Lord of Mysteries actually succeeds at this to such a high level because it uses so many different mechanics and rules that are all told and explained to the audience beforehand. It first introduces the puppet, which lets the audience know that the characters needs to tap each other to break free from its control. It then reveals that the clown can see all incoming attacks, allowing him to dodge them. But Klein figures out a weakness of his ability, which is shooting not at him but right next to him. This makes the clown retreat, and instead he starts trying to set the puppet loose. So now, instead of just fighting him normally, they have to protect the case containing the puppet. But eventually he manages to set the puppet loose, and as we've established earlier, the puppet's control grows stronger when the notebook is near. And since we just obtained the notebook from Bieber, the puppet can take over everyone at once, instead of just two people at a time like normal. Now the main characters are basically screwed because they're all under its control and can't tap each other. But it's here where the story does something genius. Klein uses the fog that transported him away previously to temporarily withdraw and return, which acts as a way for him to free himself from the puppet's control. Not only that, but Leonard is also able to free himself due to his shadow, which was hinted at earlier in the episode. So now, Klein is free, but he still can't kill the clown. If he shoots, the clown will just dodge. Instead, Klein drags the clown into the radius of the puppet where it ceases control and immobilizes him, so Klein can just shoot the clown. This fight utilizes 5 different mechanics: the puppet, the book, the clown's ability, the fog, Leonard's shadow, and they all interact with each other with so much cause and effect. That is so hard to pull off when writing a fight. I cannot stress enough how genius this whole encounter is. So yeah, I actually massively enjoyed this sequence, and honestly, I was excited. I thought this was where the show would pick up and get better, and it would be a bit less confusing. But let me tell you, it gets worse.
That shit is fucking trash, dog.
Like, shit gets even more confusing from this point onwards. Episode 5 feels like you're tripping on the most insane drug ever. It's so fast, nothing gets explained, it's a straight up fever dream.
She caught on.
And escaped the nightmare.
How?
Mirror substitution.
How? How did she do that? Does that cost energy? Why doesn't she do that every time she gets attacked?
I need to focus on my sequence advancement, but it feels like the digestion's stalled lately. I've been dogged with the acting. What the f*** is he talking about?
And you know, sometimes they will actually explain certain mechanics, but the problem is that the explanations they give are also terrible.
The Order has 22 oracles, labeled by the alphabet.
Man, what the fuck is you talking about?
What the fuck was that? I'm sorry, man.
The Mystery Prior's maxim denotes acting, but it's not true acting.
Any particular potion you're leaning towards? I'd be happy to explain each one in detail.
Stop the cap.
Like, they will technically explain it, but that's not really enough for me to actually understand it. For example, this show uses a lot of 3D in its production. So let's say I told someone who has never worked with 3D or CGI ever to model a whole city, and that you model by scaling, extruding, and beveling. Even though I have explained it to them, would that person be able to model a whole city? No, because they don't actually understand how to model. They wouldn't even be able to model a chair properly with that explanation. And you know, I have no problem with abilities being complex. I like that, but I still need to know how they work. In fact, it's even more important in those cases. If the ability is just like a big energy beam, I don't need that explained to me. I can tell by just seeing it. Since we just talked about Hunter x Hunter, that anime also has some pretty complex abilities at times, but they still take their time explaining and demonstrating them. For example, in the Chimera Ant arc, Knuckle has this really intricate ability that he explains to Gon in such detail that his head starts overheating. And so when Knuckle uses his ability in the future, the audience knows exactly what's happening. This show never makes my head overheat when trying to explain a singular thing. Instead, it makes my head overheat when it tries to explain 10 completely different things at the same time in the span of 2 minutes. I've seen some people say that this is because shonen anime ignore show don't tell and just explain stuff instead, but that isn't really true. Show don't tell doesn't mean that you always have to show and that you can never tell. You shouldn't rely on telling when showing would be more impactful, but you also shouldn't show when that would just leave the audience confused, bored, or missing the actual point. And most of the time, it's best to use telling and showing together. And Hunter x Hunter does this really well because it'll use not just verbal explanations, but also practical. Like when Gon and Killua wants to learn what Nen is from this dude. He's like, you see how I can destroy this wall by just touching it? That's Nen. You see this paper? That's Nen, baby. They literally show the audience how it works, then explain it to add context and make you fully understand, instead of just dumping a bunch of exposition. Even with Knuckles' ability before, we first start fighting him with no knowledge of his ability, but as we're fighting, we slowly start to get more and more clues as to how it works before he eventually reveals it. Telling is not an inherently bad thing. I mean, hell, Lord of Mysteries itself tells all the time. You remember all those clips from before?
Need to focus on my secret advancement, but it feels like the digestion mystery prize maximum denotes activity.
That's telling. There's this one part of the story where this guy is running away and then he just turns into a woman in the span of like 10 seconds, and the main character is like, he has become a woman, and the other guy is like, ah yes, that explains everything.
What?
Like, what? No, it doesn't. What do you mean he just became a woman? How do you do that? Why is everyone acting like this is just something you can do?
I'm sure you have questions. Please ask.
Yes, I have several questions. And I know some people are gonna be like, it wasn't complicated at all. I understood everything.
Hey champ, that's really interesting. Next time, keep it to yourself.
You know, it's a shame because I feel like there actually is a good story here somewhere. Like at the end of the episode with Asik, even though I was just a huge question mark the whole episode, I actually kind of felt something when Klein related to Asik. But there's no real praise I can give this show aside from episode 3. It really doesn't do a great job with its characters. None of them develop at all, nobody has a character arc, they're just the same all the time. I can't really give Lord of Mysteries more than like a 6 out of 10 in its current state. If you don't mind reading wiki pages to understand the plot, then go for it. But if not, you should probably just read the novel. But that doesn't mean I've completely given up on Chinese anime. If you want to watch one that actually respects its audience, then make sure to check out this video right here.